Okay, so welcome, Steve. It's great to see you here. So for anyone who's just joined and missed the introduction that we did for the Facebook viewers, Steve Hutchins is co-founder of DoGood. He creates plant-based dog food, which is very much ethically driven and supports very much the beliefs that Steve and his wife have, or partner has, in terms of their own ethical beliefs. It's an independent business, and they've developed recipes to create nutritionally complete meals, plant-based meals, bear in mind, that will nourish dogs without harming the planet or other animals. So we're absolutely fascinated by Steve's story, and we've been wanting to do this for a while. It's our video shorts series, so the interview generally is around 20 minutes. We aim for it to be about 20 minutes or so. So we're going to ask Steve some questions, and are you up for it, Steve?
I'm definitely up for it. Thank you very much, Graham.
Okay.
Well, I'll start then. I'll ask you why you actually started this business. What inspired it?
Sure. There's a long version of the story, or I'll try and give you a more condensed version. So rewind to 2015. My partner and I, Christina, we're actually getting married this year, so I can call her my fiance now.
Yeah.
But rewind to 2015, we were both living in Cambodia, and we were both meat eaters at the time. That's the way we've been brought up. And Cambodia was the first time it really opened our eyes, because in Cambodia, dogs are not seen as pets. Dogs are either, big dogs are guard dogs, or dogs are sold for meat in the markets. So they typically are on like spit roasted and available as like fast food in a market to eat. So that really started us questioning. We found that extremely shocking, and that really got us questioning, well, if we're finding that so shocking, but culturally that is normal for them, why are we then eating cows or chickens or pigs, and we're finding that okay? So that, coupled with the fact that the quality of meat there, because of the health and safety, was poorer than the UK. So a few times we'd be eating meat and it would be making us ill. I'll just state we definitely didn't eat dog meat, but you know, several times we had some beef or chicken. One of us had a tapeworm. I felt so ill that I thought I was going to die at one point. So we started transitioning to more plant-based eating ourselves. And then one day I was driving along, and it was one of the hottest days of the year, maybe 40 degrees. And I saw a dog in a cage at the side of the road, just slumped, that was clearly being sold for dog meat, because there's no such thing as pets in Cambodia. And it happened to be a beagle. And my partner, Christina, had always wanted a beagle. It was the thing that she'd always talked about. And I'd never had a dog in my life. And I just phoned her up. I said, I can't drive past. I'm going to have to basically bargain for this beagle. And we ended up essentially buying her to rescue her from being dog meat. And she was, you know, scrappy street dog. She was biting everything. She was peeing everywhere. She was a real nightmare. So around 3 months later, we thought the best way to get around that would be to adopt another dog, who we worked with a charity there who were rescuing dogs from the meat markets as well. So we ended up with 2 dogs, Bella and Watson. And because there wasn't really such thing as commercial dog food in Cambodia, we were cooking for them. And because we were going more plant-based ourselves, because the meat was you know, bad quality and was leading us to become sick, we started doing a lot of research and discovered that dogs are omnivores who could thrive on a plant-based diet, and not carnivores who needed meat, which is what we originally thought. So we were cooking for them, you know, did a lot of research. We learned about lots of powerful natural ingredients, such as coconut oil or apple cider vinegar, that you could add to their food that would help with things like ticks, help their skin or their coats become more glossy. So that was what we did for several years there. When we came back to the UK with them, as I said, I'd never had a dog in my life. So we went into the supermarket to see, you know, what we could feed them. There's commercial dog food. And I'm the kind of person that reads the label on food. So I'd look down the label of what we're going to be feeding our dogs. And I genuinely was shocked at some of the ingredients on there when you research them. There's things called animal derivatives, which when you look it up is actually just the leftovers from the slaughterhouses. So it's things like ground down skin and hooves and hair and feathers, things like placenta and semen, like really not good ingredients. They're things that are left over from the slaughterhouses that humans can't or won't eat, and therefore they get made into dog food. But they get, I mean, we can go more into the nutrition later, but they essentially get cooked to really high temperatures or pressures. Lots of the nutrients are destroyed. We weren't convinced that our dogs could thrive on this shelf stable dry food or canned food. So we continued cooking for our dogs. It's really hard to get it correct when you cook for your dogs, especially plant-based. So it took for the pandemic to happen for us to have the time to say, well, we're doing this, we've looked elsewhere, there's nothing on the market for a plant-based fresh dog food. We'd experimented with a couple of meat-based dog foods, which we weren't particularly happy with. We tried cooking on our own a lot, but we were both working full-time, long-hour jobs. So it took the pandemic for us to take a bit of a reassess and say, right, well, we need this, so other people must need this. So we teamed up with a canine nutritionist to help formulate the recipes to make sure that they were nutritionally complete and balanced for dogs, which is more difficult when you don't include meat, because you've got to get the correct amino acid profile. You've got to make sure every vitamin, mineral is in there. So we teamed up with them alongside what turned out to be a Michelin star chef, and we all worked together to develop the recipes to make sure that not only were they nutritionally complete and balanced, but also that they were digestible and palatable for dogs as well. So it took 18 months of product development, and then we finally launched at the end of September last year. And so far things are going great, and we're happier than ever that we're kind of following our passions for our dogs and our vegan diets.
Wow, that's fantastic. And I would say that from what I recall, I heard you once saying that this dog food would also be suitable for humans to eat. It's that good. Is that correct? Have I got that right?
That is correct. When we did so unlike dog food, traditional meat-based dog food, which probably wouldn't be safe for humans to eat, this dog food is essentially cooked the same way as human food. So we have things like kale, which we steam and we chop, sweet potato, butternut squash, they're all boiled and cubed. And every single ingredient is safe for humans. In fact, when we were doing the recipe development with the chefs, other chefs in the building would come and taste it, not realizing it was dog food, and say, oh, that's quite nice. And then they'd be told it was dog food. They couldn't believe it. So, I mean, there's no seasoning because dogs can't have high salt content, but all of the ingredients are perfectly safe for humans. We've eaten the food, it tastes fine. And we often say that our dogs actually eat better than us on most meals because they're having all these ingredients like cranberries, shiitake mushrooms, things that we're not having so often.
I'd also like to ask the question, because I'm from a family of dog owners, and I grew up with dogs from about the age of 11 onwards. My parents had dogs, and I know that a lot of people who are watching this who may not themselves be plant-based or vegan and may have certain views about that. When it comes to dogs, a lot of people will inevitably think, but why would dogs want to eat plants? Dogs are dogs, they need to eat meat. Do you what's sort of resistance you come up against, and how do you counter that? Because I believe there's a lot of research you've looked into as well, isn't it?
Sure. So, I mean, as I said, we had the same common misconception that dogs are carnivores that need meat, but they don't. Dogs require a certain set of nutrients, not a certain set of ingredients. So if you can get those nutrients from the plant-based sources just as well as you can for the meat-based sources, then what it really comes down to is, do they enjoy the food? Is it palatable? Is it digestible? So there is various research out now on all of those things. One piece of all peer-reviewed journals now, I think there's 8 out in total, 7 which now support vegan diets for dogs, showing that it is just as palatable as meat-based food, just as digestible, and actually you can have better health outcomes on the vegan diets than the meat-based diets, probably because of the issues I touched on briefly earlier, which is the fact that some of the meat-based food, the ingredients aren't necessarily very functional because they're slaughterhouse leftovers. They're essentially things like ground down hooves and hair. The fact that things are highly processed, so typical kibble is cooked through a process called extrusion. So high heat and pressure, it's about 320 degrees is cooked at, and we know that many nutrients will be killed at that point, things like omega-3, vitamins A, E, B vitamins. So it's probably no wonder that the vegan diets, and one other thing to say is, obviously we know from human diets ourselves that cooking meat at high temperatures causes carcinogens, which can cause things like cancers, and also that meat is typically higher in cholesterol and saturated fat. So if you're switching to plant-based, then typically you're going to have less problems with obesity. You're going to be able to protect yourself better from certain cancers and certain health issues related to obesity, like diabetes and arthritis, things like that. So yeah, multiple studies are out now. The most recent two show that dogs on the vegan diet lived 1.5 to 2 years longer than dogs fed a meat-based diet. These are in the last month, recent studies. And also that when owners transitioned from a meat-based to a plant-based diet for their dogs, it would reduce the prevalence of certain conditions such as skin inflammation, itchiness, gastrointestinal issues. They're less likely to suffer from eyesight issues or liver disorders. And they would improve things like the glossiness of their coats and the amount of dandruff they had. So there's multiple studies out now. It's great that it's being researched, and so far all of the studies, bar one from 1987, that was I think there was 8 dogs involved in that one, but apart from that one study, all 7 are recommending vegan diets. And for us, we believe that freshly cooked is the way to go, because you're preserving those essential vitamins and minerals. You're not essentially destroying them in the processing of the food.
That's really encouraging to hear, because also I think it's fair to say that certainly in the UK, from my own experience, and just knowing how people dote on their dogs, and also there's a tendency to give them the foods that we eat, and we've seen quite an increase in the common chronic diseases that we suffer from in dogs as well, because they've kind of started to adopt the Western diet, the standard Western diet. So I think anyone that says, well, this can't be right for dogs, giving them plant-based food, because we know for a human diet, plant-based has a lot of benefits for cardiovascular health, certain cancers, etc. It probably stands to reason then that it's going to be right for dogs. And as you say, the research does support that.
Yeah, well, look, dogs have evolved alongside humans for between 30 and 40,000 years. And considering their generation time is roughly 2 years, they've had 15 to 20,000 generations of evolution with humans, where they've been fed essentially scraps from humans. And majority of that has always been plant-based, way back when we were farmers. So hence why they've evolved genetically, and they have more enzymes to digest starch than carnivores do. Now, it's only been in the last maybe 100 years that commercial dog food has become available in a dry, highly processed dry food form, which is cheap to make, highly profitable, shelf stable. And dogs haven't had enough time in the last 100 years to evolve to eat a highly processed, shelf stable diet, a bit like humans haven't. And hence we are in a dog health crisis, a bit like we're in a human health crisis, closely mirrored. The most recent research on the veterinary record estimates that up to 75% of dogs in the UK are either obese or overweight, and that 1 in 4 dogs will get cancer in their lifetime. And we believe this is tied to the diet, a bit like it is with humans. And so if people argue dogs need meat, or, you know, dogs have to eat meat to thrive, well, I would argue that dogs need a freshly cooked diet. And the meat that you think you're giving your dogs in a dry food form, as an example, if food says with beef or with chicken, it only needs to contain 4% to be legally labeled as with beef or with chicken. And as we know, that 4% will be the ground down hooves or the ground down skin and horns and bristle. So it's not meat as you imagine it is. It's been almost a marketing term for companies to be able to sell you highly profitable food, labeling it as meat, telling you dogs need meat. But as I said, I would argue dogs' requirements are for ingredients, for nutrients, not ingredients. And in my view, the more they're freshly cooked to preserve the essential nutrients and not cause carcinogens or destroy vitamins and minerals, it's going to be better for the dogs.
Absolutely. Well, we know that this is a bit of a short interview, and it could be a very long one, because this is, as I've said before, this is very interesting and most unusual for me to be so fascinated by it, because of what I know about dogs you could put on a postage stamp. But I really do find this very, very interesting, Steve. Could you tell us what's happening at DoGood at the moment, or what's on the horizon for you?
Sure, yeah. So we launched, as I said, only in October last year. So we've been running 10 months. We're very much in a phase of testing and getting customer feedback with our first 3 recipes. We've actually just improved one of our recipes off the back of some feedback, and we found we were adding a palatant, which we believe that the dogs needed in the plant-based food to be attracted to it, which was pea protein based, but had an umami kind of meaty smell. But what we found is that smell was off-putting to humans. But when we did taste tests, the dogs love the food, the fresh food, just as much without the palatant. So we've managed to improve the recipe. So we're growing slowly online through our website. We're in a few local pet shops in Surrey, some independent eco shops, and we're now on a plant-based delivery app in London and also Deliveroo. So that's kind of where we are at the moment. For the future, we're still self-funded independent business, but we're about to look for investment because we're growing and we need to spend more on marketing and getting the word out there, because we're typically getting 5-star Trustpilot reviews, really good customer feedback. We believe we got the right product at the right time, and it's really important at the moment with the dog health crisis and with the environmental crisis. So where we're at the moment is we're doing a few brand collaborations with other like-minded brands, be that vegan dog subscription brands and other vegan food brands. We are going to be adding on some products to our online store. So ones that we care passionately about, there's like sustainable poo bags that we can offer as an add-on. And also we're teaming up with a company that use leftover grains from a few local breweries to create some doggy granola that will go on the top of our recipes. And these again, human safe, so you can almost have breakfast with your dog. That's kind of in the short term. Quite an exciting thing tomorrow is we are being filmed for Channel 5, a new series of Secrets of Your Supermarket Shelves. So they approached us after the most recent research was released, showing the vegan dogs lived the longest and had the best health outcomes. So that's going to be great for us, and you know, bringing vegan dog food to the mainstream. And then longer term, once we've got the investment, we've got so many ideas for new products, not just in our current range of dog food, but I can't tell you too much because again, it's complete innovation, but there's some products related to dogs' gut health via kind of fermented foods that aren't available, but we think are really important to become available for consumers. So yeah, lots of ideas, and we're just doing things step by step at the moment.
No, that's absolutely brilliant to hear. Best of luck with your future growth plans, Steve. Perhaps we just finish off, if you could let us know, how can people contact you if they want to? Sure.
So our website is wearedogood.co.uk. So that's WEAREDOGOOD. And then all of our social media is at wearedogood. So we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, or if you want to drop us an email, it's hello@wearedogood.co.uk.
Thank you very much, Stephen. We're Henry and Henry. I realised we didn't introduce ourselves at the beginning. Annette and Graham, And we'd just like to thank Steve again for very compelling interview. And we hope that people will be at least curious and perhaps want to go out and try the dog food on their own dogs, or even themselves.
Yeah.
So I'll just put a stop to the recording, and if you could just stay on, we'll just have a little chat afterwards, Steve. Thank you very much.
Thank you.